We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been
What is up, everyone? Good morning and welcome to Coffee and Crypto Live, the greatest crypto show on all of YouTube that at least streams at this time in the morning every single day. It is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are in Gainesville, Florida. I am TA Tim. I'm hosting today because Jebb needed the day off for a family emergency. However, it's still going to be a good show. We got some great people joining us today. I'm joined by two of my favorite people, probably in the entire world. Taylor, my wife, takes number one. But Taylor, as in TShroom, is in the top 100 for sure. How you doing today, TShroom?
Great to hear that I'm in the top 100. Hope I'm not 99.
To be fair, I know a lot of people, so that top 100, you're in the top 1%. You know.
Very nice.
What about me, Tim?
Smay, I always save the best for last. You probably cracked the top 30.
Wow.
To be fair,
TShroom
TShroom might crack top 32. I just, I wasn't as, specific.
TShroom.
So,
You got some catching up to do.
Yeah, I got to step it up. I'll step it up.
How you doing this morning, Smay?
I'm doing fantastic. I didn't eat good last night. I didn't sleep good last night.
Yeah.
I feel horrible physically, but I feel great emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all the other Lees, also I love, we were talking about cars. I just really think the Mustang GT is such a cool car.
Yeah.
But I would like to read some green names. We have Elliot Locke. We have Martine Siebels. We have Crypto Set Guy. Who else we got here? We got Agent Gold. We got Groovy. We got Crypto Alchemist. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Crypto Alchemist. We got Adam Rourke. We got Crypto Alchemist. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Adam Rourke. We got Elliot Locke. We got Crypto Alchemist. We got Elliot Locke. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Elliot Locke. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Elliot Locke.
Come on.
We got Grand Roofing Incorporated.
they're having a great
we got
conversation.
Mitch Shaw. We got Martine Siebels. We have JoJo. We have Grand Roofing Incorporated. We have Mitch Shaw. We have Kelly Kellum. We have Matt C. Assault and Assault. Eye of the Beholder. Cash Cats. Win Peoples. Guys, if you have a Mustang, I'm gonna shout you out in the chat. So put it in the chat, guys. I'm gonna shout out anybody who has a Mustang. All right, back to you, Tim.
Well, it's going to be a fun show today. Fun show. As you guys can see, because everyone saw that title. Bitcoin price to $12,500 next month. Key point there, question mark, exclamation point. We're going to discuss why there are actually some things that could send us down there. But there's a new tradition we're starting. You guys know about Positive Fridays, but this is the first Monday we have since we got to announce this. It's a hard day to do it, but we're going to keep Mondays optimistic, and we're going to be running with Optimistic Mondays. I already saw in the chat there people calling Tim a bear, and guess what? I have to call it as I see it, but especially on Mondays, I'm going to try my best to remain optimistic. And you know what is, let's just start with optimistic about a $12,500 Bitcoin price. The amount of one coiners that are going to be built from that price is astronomical. So that is something to be optimistic about should we get down there. We're not ready to say we are going down that far just yet, but you'll see throughout this show why there is a chance we could do that. Smith, you got your hand up?
I have some shout outs.
You got some shout outs?
I have, first of all, I want to shout out a special shout out for Terry Balt Masala. He said, I have a mustard.
Okay, there we
I don't
go.
know why you're taking me, but also shout out to Antonio. He says I have a GT 350.
Yeah.
Shout out to you. Back to you, Tim.
We're going to talk a lot about today. We're going to talk about some charts. We had a miscommunication. Some people, I don't know if we announced it or not. We were going to have Frankie Candles on, and we had a miscommunication. So Frankie Candles is going to come on really, really soon. Was going to have him on today, but I don't think it was communicated very well to him, so that was fun. But we're going to talk about some charts. We're going to talk about what's happening over at Three Arrows Capital, Celsius, and are we going to see potentially continual pain and downside movement from exchange chaos? But you know what? A lot of people sometimes complain on this show that we don't talk enough crypto because we'll go on and banter in the beginning. I don't hear enough people say that we don't talk about coffee enough. My first thing about coffee, though, before we jump into crypto, I brewed myself a Keurig. It's blueberry cobbler coffee, and Smay hates it. Smay hates the whole idea. He says that those don't go together. Let me see in chat if you guys think blueberry cobbler flavored coffee would be good. But let's jump to a chart. And you have another chart you want to see, TShroom, but we never talk about the coffee. This is right here, the Keurig Dr. Pepper Incorporated 1 week chart. Back in December when March of 2020 when we had that pandemic and coffee, at least Keurig, dipped really far. We're up over 90% since that point. We actually got up as high as over 100%, but coffee on its way up, you know. What are your thoughts, TShroom? Are you investing in coffee right now?
Yeah, if you no, I'm not. No,
you're not buying any coffee?
If you go over to my screen, I've got a real chart of the commodity coffee beans pulled up. You can look over, and this is a multi-year chart going back to 2009, and it's been looking pretty good since the beginning of 2021. It's been on quite a little bull run here, and it's not exactly clear how you would enter into a position on coffee beans. But you could do it. You could probably figure it out, and that could be fun. There might be a coffee futures ETF. I'm sure they've come up with some fun little acronyms to fill in the ticker symbol for that. Maybe Joe or something like that. I don't know. So anyway, but yeah, coffee is definitely been on the rise, and it's looking like it could be down this year more than likely, but it could have another pop.
Boom. Well, there's our coffee talk of the day for all of you guys. We're going to switch into some crypto, but first, let's smash that like button, everybody. And if you are not subscribed and you are new here, welcome. This is not always how the show goes, but I am so glad you are here. Consider hitting that subscribe button and joining us every single day, because what we're about to jump into is the charts, is the news, everything you need to know about the upcoming price movements of the crypto world so that you can be prepared to make wise investments and provide for your own financial sovereignty. But there's a couple things that are happening. First of all, this week we have the CPI numbers coming out. We're going to talk about that probably throughout the rest of the show, but just in case anyone was wondering, Tim, what should we be expecting here later this week? A lot of analysts are calling potentially for inflation numbers to hit 8.8. That would be 0.2 higher than last month's 8.6. So this is something that more than likely would bring on some hawkishness from the federal government, from the Fed, from the FOMC. It is not yet happened, so we do have to continue to wait. And again, we're still wrestling between, we have a recession coming and we have high inflation. The Fed has two different responses to that, so it will be interesting to watch. But just so you guys know, at this point, the expectation for later this week is that we will see 8.8% on the inflation rate. And then 2 weeks from now, when we have the FOMC meeting, at this point, the CME futures are calling for a hike rate of 50 basis points. Could the numbers from inflation change that? We will have to wait 2 weeks before we have that. But let's just kind of make sure we're strapping in as we're looking at this market, as we're looking at what's happening, not only in Bitcoin, but all of crypto. We're keeping in mind those inflation numbers and what the Fed will decide here. The U.S. equities market also is now moving into quarterly, what do you call this, earnings season, like where they have to report their earnings. Is that correct, TShroom?
That is correct.
So do we have any crazy expectations for anything happening there?
As of now, no. Other than just look for it to be to the downside. It's looking like corporations are kind of hinting towards having not great earnings, lackluster earnings. So just be wary of that. It doesn't mean that you can't still win in the earnings game, but you just need to be aware of that. And then the effect it's going to have on crypto markets is more than likely going to be bearish.
Yeah, another thing that we definitely need to be paying attention to that will affect Bitcoin's price potentially is that Bitcoin selling by Mt. Gox creditors could dent Bitcoin's recovery in the markets. You can go to my screen here, SME, and this is something that's really interesting. I'm not going to read the entire article, but it talks about how that lawsuit that what happened with everyone who lost money in Mt. Gox. It has right now, the trustee currently holds 141,686 Bitcoin. That is worth over $3 billion worth of it. And there is some evidence to say that some are going to want to sell and get out of the crypto space. While there is some that most likely will continue to hold, this is something that definitely you need to keep an eye on to see if this will affect Bitcoin's price. So we will keep you guys posted on what's happening with Mt. Gox. Something else that is coming is from Grayscale. The Grayscale legal officer says Bitcoin ETF litigation could take 2 years. So if you guys want to read this article, go over to Cointelegraph and you can read it. But summing it up, it does look like they are confident they will win. However, it looked like it could take, the article says 1 to 2 years. And as we can learn from the XRP lawsuit, we probably should go ahead and add that 1 to the 2 and say it's probably going to take 3 years before we see a spot ETF. But their claim is that there really should not be a discrimination against spot ETFs, that they're being traded and invested on with the same information that regular ETF, futures ETFs are being utilized. So at the moment, what they're claiming in their lawsuit is that this is a discrimination against them and against spot ETFs. So as much as we were excited about spot ETFs potentially coming soon, even Grayscale themselves do not seem too optimistic that that's going to be a short case. So SEC, lock yourself in. Who knows when the XRP lawsuit's going to be over, and then you're going to start this long one with Grayscale, and I am sure that there are more to come, especially with the remarks coming from Gary Gensler that everything except for Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, is a security. I definitely foresee a couple of lawsuits coming from those claims. Let's see, is there anything else here? We got, I think that's it in the news. We're going to be talking about Celsius and Three Arrows Capital here towards the back half of the show. However, let's go ahead and start, and I'm going to go over to Bitcoin, and we're going to start some TA here. And there's a couple of interesting things that I want you guys to be looking at, and I'm going to go ahead and go down to the 4-hourly chart and start here. So the first thing is this right here with what we have seen in price action since the beginning of this year. So right around here, January of this year. I'll put this over on my Twitter. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter. I am at Tims_TA, and I made a post about this. It's actually going to look a little bit more like this over here, and I'm going to talk about this here in just a second. All these arrows have to do with the FOMC and the CPI numbers coming out. But let's start with just the formations that we've seen developing since January of this year. So since the year began, 3 times, not once, not twice, 3 times, we have set up symmetrical triangle patterns. If you are wondering what that is, getting rid of this resistance level right here. If I didn't know what was happening right here, if I didn't see this breakout, this was a symmetrical triangle pattern that we had developed, and we ended up breaking bullish out of it. Then we ended up creating a channel. Let me go ahead and draw that channel again just because I deleted it. 3 times this has happened. Once, boom, symmetrical triangle pattern breaking bullish, and then we have a trading channel that ends up breaking bearish. We scroll down here when we came down to the mid 20,000s here back in May. Same thing. We developed a symmetrical triangle pattern. If I can zoom in on it real quick right here. Symmetrical triangle pattern, we broke bullish, but again, this was only then setting up a 3-touch trading channel that again, once again, we did break bearish. And we are now on our 3rd opportunity where again, we set up a symmetrical triangle pattern with 3 touches, broke bullish, and now we have a trading channel. And as it stands right now, we are heading back down. And there's what's really going to be interesting, and this is my opinion, is that we are going to watch the CPI numbers come out higher than they've been before. So they're going to be, again, that 8.8, maybe 8.7, maybe 8.8. It would be very bullish, I will say, if we could stay at 8.6 or maybe even drop lower to 8.5, 8.4. But that is not the expectation by, I think, this team. And that is not the expectation by some of the economic experts who are making those predictions. So right now, it does look like we potentially could have another bearish effect. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But I talked about this on Friday, and I want to just remind you guys, pulling up our VPVR and coming down, and I just want to show you guys what we've been doing in this little range right here. I called for this. When I made this call back on Friday, so we were sitting right up here. We were hovering right here at the $21,100 level, and I told you guys, looking at these peaks on VPVR, which shows you a lot of volume and where traders have been entering and exiting, if we could not hold this level, we were headed down to this one right here at 20,400. Sure enough, that's exactly where we are. We have a wick there. If we cannot hold this support right now, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. If we cannot hold the support, the next level we are looking for more than likely is down around 19,400. So keep your eyes on that when we're looking at short-term price action, that right now we are hovering right at a key support level according to VPVR, and we could, if we lose that, end up going down to 19.4 before we find some strong support. That's also going to be sitting probably right there in that region of the support level of our ascending trading channel. Now, a couple reasons I want to start. Let's be optimistic here before I transition you guys over and show you what we see on the charts in correlation with CPI and FOMC numbers. Let's look at a potential couple reasons why we could see some, let's see a bounce here over the next 2 days, because we do have 2 days before we actually end up having our report come out. On the 4-hourly chart, our TD sequential, I can go ahead and get rid of VPVR. That is just taking up space at this point. We had a 9 flash on the 4-hourly chart over the weekend. This was late last night, I believe, or rather right at midnight, we had our green 9 flash. So TD sequential on the 4-hourly chart is calling that potentially this could be a level of support. As we already talked about with the VPVR, I took it down, but I'll show you once again. The VPVR is, nope, I hit the moving averages. Where's VPVR? Right there. VPVR is showing that this is a level of support. So there's 2 arguments right there that potentially we could move up. We're at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, so that's 3 right there. And then the last one that I was looking at is, let's see, the volume, okay, that's what I was looking at. Volume, we really haven't had any key volume calling for us to come down. This more seems like a market that we had a green 9 flash or a red 9 flash up here that reversed us, and no volume is coming to space. I do believe a lot of different people are looking and waiting to see what those CPI numbers are, but we still have 2 days for that. So consequently, I could see very easily this end up bouncing back up to the upside, maybe coming back up around that $21,100 level, waiting for those CPI numbers. If I were to take you back and show you something similar, again, a lot of people like to complain and say, Tim, you can't say it's the same thing twice. I'm not saying that's going to happen identically. I just think it's kind of funny that we're doing some similar things, similar details. But we, like you said, we broke bullish here. We ended up forming our trading channel, came back down, had a little bit of a relief rally. Let me pull up the volume and see what the volume was doing during the same time. See if there's any correlation here. Yeah, sure enough, not a whole heck of a lot of volume as we waited for CPI numbers. And as most of you know, those CPI numbers were disastrous for this price. But I will show you that here in a second. So as it stands right now, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all to see over the next couple of days, rather the next couple of hours, over these next 2 days, to see a little bit of a small relief rally. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, look, Tim was wrong. We're not going down. Well, hold your horses. Let's wait until the CPI numbers come out to make the decision to say if Tim is wrong or not. The last thing bullish is right here. Again, I got to keep honest with you guys. But as it stands right now on the 4-hourly chart, we do have bullish RSI divergence. My only problem with this, and you guys know I love divergence, so you guys are going to wonder, why is Tim all of a sudden turning and not being so optimistic? Well, there's not necessarily any confirmation this is down. There's not any necessary information saying that we're done heading to the downside. So before I call that strong bullish RSI divergence, I do have to see the price kind of stop moving to the downside. And also, again, as much as I like bullish RSI divergence, technically speaking, we had some back here as well. You guys are seeing these price actions right here. The RSI, not a whole heck of a lot, but it ended up moving to the downside, where in the same time frame, the price moved to the upside. This is bullish RSI divergence. We even had a small rally right here. But guess what you can't compete with? When you have very bearish fundamental news break out, when you had that 8.6% inflation report come out, that changed everything. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin didn't have a chance. Remember, in this time, we were saying that there was still a strong possibility that Bitcoin could head back up to 38,000 before it came back down. However, that 8.6% inflation was kind of a killer to any bullish momentum we had, and that is my concern at this point, that even the bullish things on the charts, you got to take them with a grain of salt, because a bearish news coming out of our inflation numbers, if we hit that 8.8, or even worse, if we go higher, 8.9, I just cannot see this bullish movement continuing. I do think it'll need to cool off, and then we'll have to wait to see if the Fed takes a strong stance. Are they going to continue to keep that 75 basis point thing that they kind of hinted at last month? Are they going to go a little bit more dovish down to 50, which is expected at this point? Or will they go super dovish, trying to prepare some of this recession talk and go back down to 25? We will have to wait for 2 weeks. But that's why, guys, even the bullish things I'm seeing on the charts right now, I got to keep my brain on. I got to keep thinking, let's talk about this from a reasonable standpoint. The news is not in a great spot to support a bull rally right now. But I very, very, very much hope that I am wrong on that. I'm just telling you, that's how I see it at this point. Let me go over to my Coinbase chart. And this is where I told you guys I was going to show you what was happening with all of these numbers. So ever since January, so right here, all these blue arrows right here are all of our inflation numbers. All of these green arrows is our FOMC numbers, so what they decided to do. So back here in January, but this is reporting December, we had a 7% inflation. The price ended up dipping, but the Fed did nothing about it, so this gave us kind of a relief rally. Here in February, we reported January had 7.5% inflation. This was bearish, sent us back down before we had another CPI number, 7.9, that did nothing until we had some movement from the Fed. But the Fed continued to kick the problem down the road, saying, look, we'll deal with this later. We'll only raise it 25 basis points for now, and for a while, we'll keep it right at 25 basis points. This gained some confidence back into the market as we begin to rally, but around this time, back on March 30th, I think the price got a little bit overextended, and I think people knew that there was some bad information coming, and sure enough, here in April, we reported that March had an 8.5% inflation rate. All right, so this started the bearish movement. Yes, there's a little rally right there, but this started moving us down before the Fed came in and kind of confirmed, all right, guys, we're in trouble. We have to raise this by 50 basis points. The Bank of England came out, and even though they only rose theirs by 25 basis points during the same time, their remarks were so full of fear, the market began a crash. Now, we had a little bit of a relief, and then we saw the inflation numbers dropped a little bit at 8.3, and so this started a little bit of an upward movement. So the fact that our inflation decreased a little bit actually allowed the market to breathe before, boom, this is that huge number. You guys remember the day back here on June 11th when we saw the number jump to 8.6 of inflation, and this was our next crash. Of course, the Fed had to come out and give a 75 basis points and a 0.75 increase to the interest rates. This, once again, after this little rebound, made us crash down again, setting at the bottom side of this little, whether you want to call it a pennant, whether you want to call it a flag, this bearish movement we have, sent us back and forth, and now we are sitting right here. Now we are sitting waiting in anticipation of the next inflation number, and then in 2 weeks from now, the next FOMC response. And I'm telling you guys, let's look back at the history of these numbers. If we see an 8.8, you tell me what you see. You tell me what you think the precedence is set for. I see that being a bearish thing. If we go 8.6 or lower, maybe 8.5, maybe 8.4, then potentially we could see a bullish rally come out of this. That would be awesome. But you turn on your brain, turn on your thinking brain. Do we actually think that's going to happen? I don't think so. So when we talk about in the title, and we have this, where, Tim, is this $12,500 level coming from? Well, let's go back over to our Bitstamp chart, and I'm going to show you a couple different things that actually kind of give us some confluence in that zone. So first of all, this right now, what we are forming, you could call it a bear pennant, but then we broke up. But guess what? We kind of just broke up into a bear flag. This is not any better than a bear pennant, other than we could use a different place to draw our levels. However, if I extrapolate, if we're going to call this a bear flag, and I move this over here, guess what this prediction gives us a price tag of? 12,600. It was a little bit different, I guess, depending on where you draw the line. I must have done something a little different. I had 12.5 on there, but you guys get the gist. I'm not going to couple the entire title just because it says 12.6 right at that region. That's the first thing that I'm not saying guaranteed it all. It absolutely has to. I know that there are so many on-chain metrics that could show you we are closer to the bottom than this. I know there are so many stronger levels of support, but again, we're going to talk about it here in just a little bit. There is some lack of confidence in exchanges as a whole. We got the Mt. Gox thing coming back into perspective that people could sell there, and that's a massive amount of Bitcoin. Right now, all I'm showing you guys is what the charts are showing, and the charts are showing a very real potential all the way down to 12,600, 12,500. But if I were to turn off my log chart, go up to the daily chart, let's go all the way back to the all-time high that we set back in November, down to this full. That's like a little list. I sound like the kid with the dedicated wham. This bear flag we had set up right here. If you go from all-time high down to the bottom of that bear flag and you extrapolate that price over on the linear chart, which, by the way, guys, this is something that a lot of traders have been doing. So anytime you see other traders using this, again, the whole point of technical analysis and the ability to really trade is when you understand the psychology of other traders. Guess what that prediction gives us? That prediction gives us a 12,500, 600, some of those are 700, depending on where you're going. That's all sending us down to that exact same level. This is something, guys, that I do not think is something to take lightly. I'm not guaranteeing and promising it's going to happen, but if our history is anything to help us, if we're looking at these formations, if we're looking at how these things have played out, it does not take long when this bearish news comes in to play out this way. So why do we say next month? Because guess what we have in 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, we have that Fed announcement. In 2 days, we have the inflation announcement. Could we see a price kind of plummet down to 12,000? Well, if you had told me right here in April that you would see a $27,000 Bitcoin within the next couple of weeks, I would have said you're crazy, but sure enough, that's what happened. Right here in June, if you had told me within the next couple of days we would see a price down to 17,000, I would have said you're crazy. That's too far, too fast. But we saw it happen. So before any of the any of the perma bulls or any of the haters in the chat say, Tim, it's just not possible. is possible. We've seen it happen twice just this year. So that was a lot. I just got to go through a whole lot of information. I want to throw it to TShroom real quick. What are your thoughts, TShroom, about everything I said? And are you seeing anything in confluence or anything that differs from what I was just talking about?
Yeah, no, I think you're pretty spot on, Tim. I think that we're just going to continue to have this kind of agonizing sideways movement. I was checking out the Nasdaq just now. It's green histograms just reversed course, and they're going down. So the Nasdaq is anticipating. If you want to go to my chart, you can if you want. The Nasdaq is also anticipating kind of earnings season. It's also reaching kind of the top level of its Bollinger Band range here, and it didn't actually tap, which is kind of bearish. It doesn't have that doesn't have the oomph to go and test that Bollinger Band high, whereas up here it got much close. So and then you're seeing a bearish cross here on the RSI. This is the daily charts for the Nasdaq, the QQQ in Invesco's ETF for the Nasdaq. But yeah, I mean, so throwing that into the mix, it's all kind of like there's just agonizing, painful sideways movement. Yeah. But if you're a swing trader, this is kind of where you thrive, just kind of timing those bottoms, buying, selling at the top. Some people are kind of like fish, swimming right now, and they're loving it. But others are fish out of water, and if you're someone like me who DCAs and you're very long Bitcoin, you're not loving it right now. But that's that you didn't get in this to find love. You got into this to find financial sovereignty, and you will definitely attain it. It's just going to take time. Yeah. It's going to take patience. And maybe in the meantime, you learn a whole lot about what you're invested in, and maybe even learn a bit how to trade, so that you can take advantage of this sideways movement, which in a lot of cases is the best time to trade. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm thinking, Tim. But yeah, overall, we got to wait for these inflation numbers on Wednesday, and if they're higher, that's not only bad for Bitcoin and bad for equities, it's also just bad. It's not a good sign for the U.S. economy. And Europe's already so overheated in so many ways and struggling in so many ways. It's not good. If inflation is higher again, and the forecasts are saying it's going to be, so they're bracing themselves. But kind of in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, but hold on, gas prices did come down toward the end of June, in the second half of June. I think the peak was June 13th, and they are coming back up right now. But that reprieve from high gas prices may have been a benefit to the business side of the world economy, the supply chain. That may have given a little bit of an edge to businesses, and they may have been able to transfer that down to the consumer. That's an extremely optimistic statement, but that would be the argument for inflation numbers coming in lower than forecasted, which would be great, and especially if they could come in lower than 8.6. But at this point, I think it's probably, just being realistic, it's unlikely. My internal optimist inside me always wants it to be, to have that possibility. But
and as we've discussed on the show before, like for example, last week those unemployment numbers came out, which had been fudged a little bit to keep some confidence in the market. And we kind of discussed that. Sometimes you have to understand that reality doesn't always match numbers, but you do have to make some information and you have to make some investing based off the numbers, not off the just thinking overall about it. But potentially could we see something happen with the inflation numbers too, TShroom, where there's maybe potentially some fudging of numbers and some loopholes and places they take to make those numbers look as good as possible, because it just does not look good on Jerome Powell. It does not look good on anyone who's involved in making any political decisions right now that this inflation is getting out of control. Do you think that there is any room for error in those number findings?
I see your point, and it's a very popular position to take, and especially in a sector like crypto, where folks are, we're in this because we're skeptical of the government. I don't think it really matters. I think what matters is that they're numbers and they're coming out and the market's reacting. I think, the hubbub about, they're fudged. It's like, yeah, have they ever been super honest? Can they be super honest? I think the fact is they're just numbers, and I think that they're going on the best data they can. I think from time to time they do probably get political influence or some kind of influence to fudge the numbers. I think right now, though, there's too much at stake, and I think that they're trying to find the best data that they possibly can. That's the TShroom take. I know it's probably unpopular in the crypto community, but I think if you're Jerome Powell right now, and you're the U.S. Labor Bureau of Statistics, you're trying to get the best data you can to inform the public in the best way you can. Now, if those inflation numbers were like lower, like sub 5, then maybe you're starting to fudge them around to benefit some big bank that's paying you to fudge them so they can get some kind of outcome, some kind of early prediction. But I think right now we're kind of in crisis mode, and so I don't think there's any messing around in the market. But with that being said, they're definitely, their calculations, their standard of calculation is from day one dishonest, because it's not the best that it could be. It's not the best reflection of the economy and of inflation and of unemployment numbers. Those parameters could have been set much better. But I think particularly right now, I think that they're accurate of what they set out to measure.
Yeah. Well, before we transition into some super chats, let's go back to the charts real quick. I want to show you, for anyone who has Luxalgo and is wondering, hey, Tim, what's Luxalgo saying over there? I'm starting out in the weekly chart. I'm going to show you weekly, daily, 4-hourly, and hourly. Well, I'll stay away from hourly because that's just going to show us over the next little bit. The hourly chart you probably could find is going to show us when we might have that little relief rally over the next couple of days that I was talking about. But right now on the weekly chart, you could say optimistically, hey, we hit the take profit level. But guess what? That's kind of just the bare minimum take profit. If that short that has been entered hasn't on the weekly chart, we've been on a sell order ever since November of 2021. The bottom side of it is sitting at 12,300. So guess what? Luxalgo on the weekly chart is definitely saying that potentially that 12,500 level is possible for extreme take profit on a sell. But even that's kind of a nice support, because even that would say that's a good position to go ahead and reverse, go back to the upside. Going down the daily chart, same thing with Luxalgo. We have a take profit at the minimum sitting around 13,800, and at the worst down around 8,236. So obviously 12 is going to be sitting in this range. Down to the 4-hourly chart. Let's see where the 4-hourly chart takes us, because I do know that we're under sell order. The 4-hourly chart is not as bad. So the 4-hourly chart is going to say take profit around, for any of your shorts that you guys might have entered, around 19.6 or 19.7, and then at worst case scenario around 18.25. So potentially maybe that 4-hourly chart, again, it's just trying to track as much data as possible. Luxalgo is. It's saying that we could hold out here for a little bit. Maybe even what Luxalgo is saying is the daily chart, you got to look at a couple of weeks. You got to look at a couple of months. Potentially this 4-hourly chart is saying that we will wait. It thinks the numbers after inflation might dip a little bit, but we're really going to wait for that Fed announcement, that FOMC announcement. So that's what Luxalgo is saying. But let's jump into, I know I saw some super chats when I was checking chat. Let's answer some super chats. And also, if you guys have not done it already, go ahead and smash that like button. I know today the views are a little bit down. We're sitting at 868 people watching right this second, but 275 likes. That number could easily be sitting at 876, because all it would take is every single one of you guys hitting that like button just to support the channel. Again, completely up to you. If you're new here, welcome. We love having you here. Consider hitting that subscribe button for daily content about crypto. But with that being said, let's answer any chat we might have had.
Yeah, we've got a couple from Nico Wild. Really blew up the chat with these $2 donations, and I'll just go right through them because I'm pretty sure Nico was just communicating with another person in the chat. But I'll go ahead and read these super chats because there were donations attached. Procter & Gamble doesn't seem inflated yet. Okay, so that's it. Procter & Gamble is a conglomerate. They produce things like toothpaste, shampoo, and also a lot of other stuff. And they are a stock traded publicly, and they're going to be subject to earnings. Procter & Gamble is always a big stock to watch earnings, because it is a big indicator of consumer sentiment, retail sentiment. All right. I actually don't like P&G because market cap versus gross net. So really diving into the details there, folks who are familiar with fundamental research on stocks would know that referencing gross and net. I think that's the balance sheet. All right, and then moving on, I got another super chat from Nico. Matt C., what about BTC rescued from weird bandits? So that one I was super unsure. That's the one we have no content with. That's probably an inside joke. All right, and then we've got one from NMCT donating $5. The next couple weeks going to be the most volatile time of the year. CPI, core inflation, Fed meeting, and earnings report. It's going to be a wild ride.
I agree.
Says NMCT. So looking for a little bit of a wild ride coming up here.
Yeah,
And
and it could, when he says most volatile, it could even not necessarily reflect it on the charts, because we could have some bullish stuff coming out and some bearish stuff coming out that kind of cancels each other out. But it's going to be volatile in terms of your opinion, any investor or trader's opinion on if they should be shorting, if they should be longing, if they should just be hanging tight. There's going to be so many people that are going to be struggling hardcore with FOMO, and I think a lot of people are going to end up losing money here, and that the price might not even actually do that much. Again, there's a chance it goes down to 12,500, but even if it moves sideways, moving sideways does not mean people won't lose money. I think a lot of people will lose money because of the constant canceling out and liquidations of longs and shorts.
Yep. It will be really interesting to see how Bitcoin and equities respond to the Fed decision on the 27th of this month. Because I think that there's a chance. There's been kind of this theory that's been emerging in my own mind. I think that there's a chance that actually the markets could start to de-emphasize what's going on at the Fed. I know that sounds radical. I know that sounds a little crazy, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm definitely not 100% sure that that's what's going to happen, but it's kind of a theory that's emerging. I've been chewing on it more and more, so I'm really interested to see it.
Yeah,
I almost want a 75 basis point just so that we can get some data in that regard, but it's looking like there's potential for a 50 point basis. All right, we've got one more super chat, and then we've got something else. Nico Wild said again, can we take a peek at NUPL chart on
the Nupal
Glassnode?
chart? Yeah, so Kelly is in chat. Kelly, would you be able to take a look at that and let me know? We'll talk about that. By the way, we're also probably going to bring Kelly on again sometime, maybe this week, maybe next week. I don't know. We're going to get him on again really soon. I know you guys all love Kelly. We'll pull him away from his dungeon of writing and scripting courses to get on the show more often. But yeah, Kelly, if you're in chat, take a look at that Nupal chart, and we will touch base with you at some point later this week about that. But that's good. That's a good little point.
Yep. And then Mike Markle gifted 5 crypto Jebb memberships, which is really, really rad. Thank you so much, Mike Markle.
Boom.
Very awesome.
Well,
Very awesome.
I have a question for Smay before we transition.
Yeah.
Smay, if you could change one thing about your job right now, what would that be?
Tim, that is a really tough question. Honestly, there's a lot of things I would change, but you know
You can only get one.
the biggest thing I would change is I would want to get paid in what we talk about every day, Bitcoin.
Wow. Well, there's a way we could do that.
Oh, really?
There is. And if any of you want the same thing Smay wants, Hedge is a great option to get. Ba-doom. Hedge is a great company, by the way. All jokes aside, it is a company that's going to allow you guys to be paid in Bitcoin. And guess what? Right now, the crypto space is scary. It's kind of rough. This is the perfect time to be being paid into Bitcoin. A lot of you guys are taking your hard-earned money to DCA into Bitcoin anyway, so now you're going to have to pay those fees and those the exchange fees. But what would be better than maybe potentially even setting up for your company to pay you a percentage of your, or maybe 100%, I don't know what you want to do, but at least a percentage of your paycheck every couple of weeks, whenever your pay schedule is, to go directly into Bitcoin. If that is something that you would love to happen and save yourself exchange fees, Hedge is the company for you. There's a link in the description down below. We love them. They're one of the reasons why we continue to bring you guys content every single day, because they support us, and I would love for you guys to go and support them and support yourself. Go check out the link in the description down below. With that being said, let's transition now. We've talked about the charts, and we've even referenced a lot of fundamental news stories that will impact the price of Bitcoin, but there are two big ones that have come out, and we've been chasing these and following these for over the last couple of weeks, but there are some new developments. The first is with Three Arrows Capital, of course, the hedge fund that is going down by the day, and what influence will that have on the rest of the market? And the other one is continual updates from what's happening with Celsius. So with that being said, TShroom, I want to throw it to you. Can you lay out for us what this article is talking about over here with Three Arrows Capital getting an emergency hearing as founders fail to cooperate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to go over to my screen, I will give you just that. So Three Arrows creditors get emergency hearing as founders fail to cooperate is exactly what you were talking about there, Tim. Creditors say that the fund's remaining assets could be transferred or otherwise disposed of before creditors get their share. So that's very troubling news for folks holding on. And it's more than likely not the retail market. It's not you and me who are going to feel the pain from this 3AC debacle just yet. But it could reverberate into crypto markets. More than likely will reverberate into crypto markets when the dust settles on this. But for now, folks are asking, where in the world are Suzu and Kyle Davies, lawyers involved in liquidation proceedings of Three Arrows Capital's British Virgin Islands fund, would certainly like to know, as the hedge fund founders have not been cooperative in the proceedings so far, and their current location is unknown. So this is pertaining to a filing on late Friday in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in the Southern District of New York. Lawyers acting on behalf of the creditors said that their founders of the fund have not yet begun to cooperate with the proceedings in any meaningful manner. So just to kind of jump ahead here, there's some other notes I wanted to mention that already NFTs belonging to Three Arrows Fund's Starry Night have been transferred to a new wallet for unexplained reasons. So movement of assets, that's not good. It's getting a little bit more Luna-like every day with things like that going on. But also they are also asking the court to subpoena the founders and have them provide a list of companies' assets, including wallets it controls, bank accounts, digital assets in possession, derivatives contracts, securities, accounts receivable, and all company records, which tells me that the lawyers that need to know what the balance sheet of Three Arrows Capital is do not yet know that. They're still trying to subpoena this information, which means that this is still very much the beginning, and I think we knew that. But if you look at, I believe it was Voyager, right? They have already, they already had that all up front to where they were able to file Chapter 11, which isn't something that you want to see, but at least they had a speedy decision for their creditors, right? So this is a contrast to Voyager, and it's also a contrast to Celsius, as we'll get to in a minute. But the last note here, a court hearing is scheduled for Tuesday morning in New York. It'll be really interesting to see whether or not Kyle Davies and Suzu show up for those for that meeting on Tuesday, the day before we get those inflation numbers as well. Very interesting. Hopefully it doesn't cast a shadow. But so not looking good.
Yeah.
Now, but again, the retail market is probably not exposed to this directly, but they will feel the pain down the road, depending on whether or not Three Arrows is insolvent or illiquid.
Well, I was going to say, TShroom, I'm going to ask you two questions that I think is the biggest takeaway from this, because I think people are going to try to find out, well, what will this specifically do to the price, and what will these, what will the exact amount of numbers in Three Arrows Capital, how will that affect the price? I think there's something way bigger than that. And it has to do with the integrity of the crypto space and what the perception of every individual is. First of all, TShroom, does this story hurt your confidence in the integrity of the crypto space?
In the crypto space, unfortunately, yes. Yeah. But in terms of Bitcoin, no. So in Ethereum, kind of somewhere in the middle, right? I think what's going on here is you're starting to see, and this is gonna hurt, right? This statement, but you're gonna see that the folks that are bringing in capital to invest in crypto projects, they themselves, and I'm only going off of this article right here, and also to some extent Do Kwon's actions and what kind of has surfaced about him, is that the leaders of these funds, the leaders of some of these projects, they're not above board guys. They're not people who are forthcoming with integrity. Now we're seeing that contrasted over at Celsius. We're seeing that contrasted at Voyager. Although they were over leveraged, it's turning out they are taking the right steps. They are cooperating with the appropriate authorities, and things are moving forward in a way that you would expect. But this definitely degrades my view of the crypto space, because it shows that there are leaders, there are major actors that are in it for the wrong reasons. They're in it for themselves. They're moving NFTs around into wallets, and maybe you give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're doing that for non-nefarious reasons. But
I mean, this whole space, the last couple of months has just been one running. Can we actually trust anyone in the crypto space? And I understand why people are going to go that way, because the follow-up question I'm going to ask you, TShroom, is how do you think, not just what you think, but how do you think the masses will respond to this? Because here in the last couple of months, we had the whole Do Kwon the Terra Luna fiasco, where, not that he ran away, but there was a point where he actually had higher security guards because people were coming after him. There was that whole rug pull. And then, of course, we have the Celsius, and we have the Three Arrows Capital, and we have Voyager, and we have all these different exchanges going down. And then sometimes it's like, okay, these people that were just rah, let's go forward, let me take your money, I'm going to store it for you, and we're going to change the world. They're losing your money, and then they're disappearing. How do you think the space is going to respond overall, TShroom, with this happening? And is this just another argument as to why Bitcoin could get down to 12,500? Other cryptos could continue to drop. I've seen reports say as much as between 20 to 50% more. And a lot of these coins are already down 90% from all-time high or more. And they're saying there's another 20 to 50% they could go down. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, personally, with Bitcoin specifically, it makes me giddy, makes me excited, because the lower Bitcoin goes, the longer, the shorter amount of time I get to retirement, ultimately, right? Yeah. That's kind of what it gets to, because Bitcoin is a transformative technology. Everything east of Bitcoin, Ethereum and east, it's not that there's definitely going to be some gems in there. There's definitely going to be some very important projects. Here at the show, it's no secret we are fans of Cardano. We like Cardano, but there's also some other great projects that have definitely emerged as strong leaders. But it makes me really excited to buy Bitcoin specifically. But the pessimistic side of that is it definitely casts a shadow of doubt on what projects are being floated by hopium, by fund managers that are out there. They know the right people who have a ton of money, but they're just basically lying to these people, and they're getting money, and it's going into projects that don't deserve it. It's going into projects that haven't innovated. It's going into projects that are owned and managed by equally dishonest folks, or folks who are only in it for the money. But it also, this is kind of to be expected in an early industry, is where the money that's coming in is kind of blind, right? And that's why you see limited institutional investment at this level at this time. You don't see U.S. and European pensions getting into crypto yet, because they know that there needs to be the washing out of these. And Duquan definitely, but allegedly the Suzus and the Kyle Davies of the world, those actors that can last for a while in Three Arrows Capital, that they could last for a while in this industry on deceit. But deceit only, as we know, deceit only can last for a while. It doesn't last forever. Eventually, it gets brought out into daylight, and right now, they're having to subpoena these folks and to get the right information to bring justice and to bring this truth out into the daylight. And until that happens, it's, fully, it's just going to be bad. Now, obviously, you look at the U.S. banking industry, there's always going to be corruption. There's always going to be bad actors. Bernie Madoff, you look at, there's always going to be people who are trying to scam the system. But that turns into the minority. And you maybe have a more intense view of the U.S. banking system than I do. That's fine. But and you might be led to think the majority of the U.S. banking system is built on corruption. But there's real value. There's real growth that happens every year, and that is reflected in the share prices of those major banks who made the investments for those growth to possibilities. But overall, I said a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's my view. It kind of goes back to Jebb's famous metaphor here that was actually echoed by Snowden in his view of crypto, which is that we just have this forest fire right now. And sometimes some very big trees get taken down in the forest fire. Three Arrows Capital seems to be one of them. But they need to. They need to, so that there can be new growth and there can be honesty put forward as and not just honesty, but also regulators can come in and the market can come in and start to see promises for crazy APYs as false. As where's the beef on that? How can you promise me what was it, like 21% APY when Goldman Sachs can barely promise 3%? So the market's gaining.
I think
wisdom.
people forget the second half of the statement, the first half of the statement, high risk, high reward. Everyone loves that high reward, and crypto definitely brings high reward when there's reward. But then they get really upset when that risk factor comes in. And guess what risk brings is sometimes downside movement. And then that's what people are catching the very brutal end of right now.
Yeah.
But I want to transition, before we kind of, even take away what we're going to take away from this whole story and how people walk away from this with a better understanding of how to protect themselves. What about what's happening over now with Celsius? And it looks like they're hiring lawyers for their restructuring, because I know there's been some success. Celsius has been paying down their debt here recently, but I know there's still a major lack of confidence in the leaders over there. What's new and developing over with Celsius?
Absolutely. Well, if you want to come over here. I've got an article from blockworks.co. Celsius hires new restructuring lawyers amid debt repayment. Celsius repays its debt to DAI stablecoin issuer Maker last week and is trying to make good on its debts to others. So, diving into that, the takeaways are Celsius has tapped a new law firm to help steer the firm's restructuring as it stares down a lawsuit. The first couple paragraphs of this talks about those law firms. I'm not super I'm not in the legal world. I don't really care about names. All I know is that they're changing law firms. And there's a ton of different reasons why you would do that. But the move comes after a lender is attempting to repay its debt to DeFi protocols Aave and Compound, totaling $213 million. So Celsius, which had managed up to $11.8 billion in assets for around 1.7 million users as of May, halted withdrawals last month, as you know, freezing those accounts, citing extreme market conditions as the reason for the move. A former crypto money manager has also sued Celsius over allegations the firm misappropriated user funds to cover its shortfalls in a lending process. Right, so some nefarious allegations there, resulting in a lawsuit. That manager is said to have cost Celsius $61.2 million in liquidations, according to that data from Arkham Intelligence. So, there's definitely a lot more shoe to fall here as the dust settles, but Celsius is moving in the right direction, as the article goes on to say. Celsius repaid its final outstanding debt to Maker on Thursday, paying back $41.2 million in DAI that unlocked 21,962 in wrapped BTC, worth approximately $440 million at the time, right? So that's a move in the right direction, not skirting away from court hearings, not moving funds around in wallets that everybody can see, thinking that no one will. According to crypto wallet identified as Celsius's by blockchain intelligence from Nansen, Celsius has a total of $213 million outstanding debt to both platforms, both from $258 million on Friday, down from $258 million on Friday. So out of $213 million, Celsius owes 63% to Aave and 35% to Compound, and that data is from Zapier. So they're definitely still in quite a bit of debt, but they're moving in the right direction, right? And they're showing up and they're making good on the best they can, it seems, on the debt that they're in. And so that's a contrast to what you're seeing over at Three Arrows. Tim, what do you think about that? Do you think that this is enough for you to say that Celsius is on a better foot? Would you even go as far to say that they are potentially ready to release those funds back to users?
I don't know. I think that they're definitely getting closer than like Voyager and Three Arrows Capital. I think Celsius is doing some things, but I do know, first of all, I never owned anything on Celsius, so that's not going to change. I'm not going to all of a sudden now start trusting them and be like, oh, okay, good job, they got their stuff done. The other thing that's really alarming to me is, those of you who know, we had Plan C on our show here a couple weeks ago, and Plan C was coming out. He just kind of came out with an opposing view that a lot of people were just literally just bashing, calling Celsius a whole scam, a whole rug pull, and he was like, well, there's some evidence there that doesn't always get presented. But even him, if you go to his Twitter right now, you're going to see a lot of coverage from Plan C. He's an on-chain guy, but a lot of coverage about Celsius, that he's really working and helping the community understand how things are going and how the ability for them to get their money back is going to become a very real possibility. But he is very much turned on Alex. I think it's Malinsky. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Whoever the owner or the CEO of that company, this is just a bad dude. So I do think Celsius is going to probably at best have to come to a buyout scenario if it's going to survive in any capacity, because I do think confidence from even some of the supporters of Celsius and of the team are turning their backs on Alex. I do think that at this point, him running it's kind of similar. There's a lot of stories like that happening where a CEO or an owner of some sort of business or team, or not that you want to get rid of the whole company, but you want to get the owner out. There's not going to be any success as long as the owner is there. So there's a buyout scenario that happens. I think best case scenario for Celsius, we're going to see a buyout. I don't know who yet. I mean, the obvious targets would be some of these bigger exchanges doing okay, like FTX, maybe even Binance. Who knows if a bank or one of those lending a traditional bank system.
Yeah, well, Goldman Sachs was interested in it.
I know they said they're interested. I don't know if anything's
rumored
developed.
to be interested.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's developed there yet. But no, I think Mashinsky is what Kelly said. I wasn't reading his name in front of me. Okay, Mashinsky. I think that there is good hope and today's Optimistic Monday anyway, so let's be optimistic. I think there's good hope that people get their money back from Celsius. Now, what I would very much strongly caution you is as soon as you can get your money back from Celsius, withdraw it, take it away from there. I saw some people talking about in chat when we were opening this whole conversation about the issues and the trust that you're having in exchanges. They're like, this is why you need something like a ledger, like a cold wallet, and I 100% agree. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this. I am all for make sure you have a plan. Make sure you educate not only yourself, but any loved ones or family members that you want that money going to should something happen to you. Once you have that plan figured out, which is not that complicated, some common sense can be used with that one, but once you have that figured out, absolutely get your money off exchanges, get your money into cold wallets, not your keys, not your coins, should be in everyone's brain right now. And guess what? If you guys want to know where you can get one, there's a link in our description down below. So just go to description. I think you're going to hit show more. Go down there. There's a ledger link. Hit on it. And you guys can buy a ledger today if you don't have one already. If you already have one, continue to move your coins off of exchanges, especially these ones that cannot, if you're just watching these teams, there's a lot of lack of confidence right now. I do think there's some good projects out there. I do think there are some good lending platforms and some good exchanges. This is a common problem, though. I think some people like to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. But I do think that if you don't know for certain that the exchange that you have your money on right now is a confident exchange, you should withdraw it and then do your research and make sure you understand the history of those teams, the history of that exchange. Make sure you have some confidence in the people behind the project before you go investing in it. Same thing with altcoins. I think a lot of people's feelings and emotions about the crypto space got really hurt with what happened with Terra Luna. I think some people, and some people are still profiting from Solana, and I've kind of, I'm in a spot right now where Solana, I'm kind of indifferent about it. I do think there's a chance for Solana to be successful, but I do think there are some red flags. One way or another, though, there have been people that have been burned by Solana, and I think some people are going to stop because they got burned by Solana, and there's other coins as well. I don't want to just single out Solana. Other coins have given people bad problems. Even Cardano, as much as I love it, how many people are kind of burned when they bought up around $3, and now it's sitting down at 43 cents, 44 cents. I don't know what it's sitting at currently, but it's easy to get burned and then want to quit on the entire space. Do your research. Make sure what you're investing in is something that is here for the long term. Make sure you can trust those people, the teams, the development. What's the plan? If the plan was just let's make a coin to make people rich, I'm going to start off by giving you some good advice, and that is get out of that coin. That's not a coin you want to be in. But if the project that they're working on is something long-term that the world absolutely needs, and there's not a lot of competition in the space to get there, that might be a coin you want to leave some money in one way or another. But, wrapping all this up, TShroom, what would you say is the biggest thing we should continue to walk away with from these stories of, we have the Voyager story, we have what happened to Luna, we have what happened to Celsius and to Three Arrows Capital. What do you think people need to continuously be putting in the back of their brain about these stories?
I think that it's more than likely it's that the timeline is getting pushed back, as these bankruptcies happen. And I think this was a bigger, Kevin O'Leary talks about, you need a major organization to go down in a bear market to signal the end. I think this isn't the end. I think that this is probably more than I was expecting in terms of organizations going down, actors going down. These are three major, and there's been more. There's been a lot more. Really going down. And so I think this pushes back the timeline to where the bear market ends and the bull market starts to begin, probably to the beginning of mid 2023 at the very earliest, but more than likely 2024, 2025. And that might sound like a long time, but this is investing. You have to be thinking about this on long time scales, and that's why you don't just FOMO into something. That's why you wait. And those are just lessons that we've all learned here at the channel. You have to be very patient. But that's kind of my takeaway, is that the timeline's being pushed forward. And what can I be doing now to be making as much income as I can? Because that's my strongest tool towards financial sovereignty, is my income, right? How can I be bolstering my income so that I can invest in Bitcoin specifically as it continues to go the way of the bear in this bear market. And also, what can I do just to stay positive and to not be, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, don't look at the charts as a way to stay positive. Don't, stay away from it on a day-to-day basis. I disagree with that. I think that if your emotions are affected by looking at a screen, looking at a chart, that's something you need to improve. Your problem is more with your own self-control and your own emotions. It's not with the price. The price is not a problem. The price just is. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to control your emotions and make the decisions whether to invest or not. And so, there's been a lot of people this year who have definitely realized that investing's not for them. But those who have stuck with it, and this is a story as long as time, is those who stay with their investments that they're convicted in succeed if they are educated in their investments, and that's a big if. But I think here at the channel we're all pretty confident in what we're educated on. So Tim, what's something that's kind of been going on in the back of your mind as you're reading these headlines and digesting them for yourself?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it is, it all will come down to research, and this is something that we'll hit on every single show. But I really want to continue to encourage all of you guys right now to don't get discouraged and just quit. Don't leave this space. Like the same way that a lot of people are going to feel really discouraged for buying tops, like when they bought 65,000 or 69,000 and then the price dipped and they're going to feel discouraged, go away. Don't walk away now and sell the bottom and say I'm done with crypto. And I say the bottom, I'm not saying the exact bottom. Again, I think we could go down as low as 12,500, hence the title of this video. But what I'm saying is we're so close. We're so close. This is the perfect time to continue to learn. First of all, learn how to read charts. It never hurts to learn. If you're going to go to play poker, you learn how to play the game. Continue to learn how to play the game. Learn how to read how to count the cards. I guess it's a bad example because a lot of times if you're in Vegas, you get kicked out. But you know what I'm trying to say. Continue to learn the game. But the other thing is invest in your education of the space. Just so you guys know, that's what I'm investing a lot of my time in right now when I'm off air is, doing my job, making sure I'm running the company the way it's supposed to be run, but also then doing my research on the teams and the fundamentals behind projects so that I'm investing wisely. And I'm not saying there will never be a day that I don't see a project that I think, hey, this is one I could make some fast cash on. I'll invest short term and take profit and not come back into it. But for the most part, especially right now, I'm more thinking, what are the long-term projects I want to be able to put my money in, sit and let it hold in my HODL portfolio. This is the best time to do your research for those things like that. So I heavily encourage you. Optimistic Monday. Guys, the price might go down, but that is not a reason to be discouraged. It is a reason to be excited because more money can be made. Your supply will go up. Before we close out this stream, was there any chat that we have left, or did we answer all the chat in the last section?
I have a chat.
You have a chat question?
Yeah, my chat question is, hey guys, do you have things going on in your life that could be negative or things that you're hoping for that could be a positive development? Well, the best way to feel comforted in those times is prayer. And I would like to say that here at Crypto Jebb, we have a prayer wall in our office that all of us participate in. And if you guys send an email to support@cryptojebb.com, we'll write down that prayer request, we'll put it on the wall, and one of us employees will take it and then through the whole week pray on behalf of that prayer request. So please, if you have anything that you're going through, anything that you're praying for, anything that you're hoping for, please send an email to support@cryptojebb.com. Just put a note in there. This is a prayer request, and we are going to put it up on the wall. And it just really makes our day being able to pray for you. So I just wanted to say that was my chat.
Any other chat? That was good.
Yeah, there was one. Nico Wild was clarifying a $5 contribution. To clarify, the couple that allegedly stole a ton of Bitcoin had it confiscated. What happens with that, and now how might it be affected? Price weird bandits. Okay, so that's what he was talking about with the bandits. I'm not super familiar with that story, but if Bitcoin is returned to its owner, that at that point that owner can sell it, hold it, or whatever they want, unless they have some kind of agreement with the law firm that confiscated it. But I don't know. I would imagine they probably have full autonomy and that they're gonna sell a little bit of it. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, the last thing before we close out the show, just so you guys know, I saw in chat people were asking when is the next community stream, because we haven't had one here in a little bit. Well, I'm glad to announce that on this Thursday, the 14th of July. That's my mom's birthday, actually, 14th of July. I gotta make sure don't miss your mom's birthday. But yeah, 14th of July, we will have our membership stream right after stream. Make sure you don't miss it. All of our members, you guys are welcome to come. So be looking
there
at.
or
If you're
be
not a
square.
member, you can become a member very easily. Hit that join button and join our group today. We're building one of the greatest and most uplifting, encouraging communities in all of YouTube. If you want to be a part of that, consider hitting that join button. If you have not smashed like yet, go ahead and do that. If you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. With that being said, though, guys, on this optimistic Monday, I want to leave you guys with the last thought of go out there and continue to educate yourself, because the only difference and the only thing keeping you back from creating financial sovereignty for yourself and your future family is you and your education. Go be great today, guys. I'll see you this afternoon in another video, and if not that one, then tomorrow morning. With that being said, peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.